Equity is like marriage. It's hard just to bring back once it's been granted, so you need to make sure that this person is fully committed. Have you ever had a key employee that you've been worried might steal all your secrets and go start their own business? Or have you just had an employee that you want to have for the long term? They're a key pillar of the business, but you're not quite sure how to keep them motivated for the long term. In this video, we're going to talk through giving staff equity and some of the things you need to think about. Let's dive into it. So, the perils of giving staff equity. There's a bunch of things we need to think about. The challenge we're trying to solve is to motivate our staff for the long term. Often, your management or your high-performing team members, you're not giving the intern equity, of course. Retention, keeping those people, especially if they're being headhunted or they know they're an industry leader. And also to align long-term growth goals of what you want for the business with your team members to make it fair or aligned, if you will. So the things we need to think about, the first one is vesting schedules. So owners will use a schedule that vests equity over a period of time before that actually becomes granted. This is to stop an employee who has a crack a year getting given equity and then smoke bombing. Equity is like marriage. It's hard just to bring back once it's been granted, so you need to make sure that this person is fully committed. The next one is a retention tool, as we mentioned in the challenge. It does help retain talent, but I don't think it is an immediate motivator for the here and now. Often equity is a long-term play, so you need to think about if this will actually motivate that team member. For example, sales employees often are just motivated on the commission, on the immediate paycheck at the end of the quarter or at the end of the year. Number 3 is control and dilution. So this is a big one and a key one that I talk about with founders is they're worried about diluting their ownership stake and not being able to make control. So making sure that they have enough votes in any decision and that they can have the ultimate decision. Number 4 is having clear buyback agreements in place. So the common one I see is that a staff member might be granted equity or be on a vesting schedule, but then they leave. And what are the considerations around that? Often people will have really clear rock solid terms that if anyone leaves the business, that the founder has the first right to buy that stuff back. And that needs to be clearly documented in the contract you have with them. Number 5 is tying equity to performance. So this is supposed to be a long-term motivator. You want everyone rowing in the same direction. So some people tie this to a performance target of the business growing to a certain amount to try and align those incentives. I often, to be honest, see profit share programs, so just sharing in the profits or a bonus in this area to try and align that performance. I don't see it as commonly in equity, but people can do that. You can put whatever you want in the contract, of course. And then number 6 is setting realistic expectations. So equity is a long-term play. The liquidity event of maybe selling your business might not be for years down the road. So being super clear on what the employee will see, how much time it will take for them to see that. Also, depending on what your dividend payout schedule is, right? If you have a couple lean years and you need to reinvest in the business for growth, they may not get a dividend, and that's probably what they want as well. So having really clear expectations of what they're getting from it is also super important. So in conclusion, my suggestion would be to consider phantom stock. This is a way, and a handful of my clients have used this. It's a way to give them a share of the spoils without giving up any ownership or control. And then the second tip I'll give you to conclude is to have super clear terms. It's worth paying for a lawyer on this stuff and consider that staff turnover one, which is the most common risk, right? The person leaves if they've got some equity. And if a new team member joins, do they immediately get into this scheme? Yeah, that staff turnover piece adds an element of complexity because, equity is like marriage. It's supposed to be forever. So you really have to think about the scenarios if things change and if there's turnover. All right, thanks for watching. If this sparks any ideas, feel free to get in touch. Cheers.